Hi everyone, welcome to this event. So here today, what we are going to do, we are going to continue with our AI DevTools course. So the AI DevTools course is a course about using AI tools for development. And so far, we already covered many things. So everything I'm going to say is going to be based on this article. You will find this article in the description, also the link to the course. So if you go under the video, and you'll see the link to the article and to the course. So what we did so far in the course is we covered 4 things. So today is we number 3 things. We covered 3 things out of 5. So today is going to be DevOps and observability for an AI build application. And this as a standalone video, as a standalone workshop, as a standalone tutorial is actually going to be sufficient. If you already have an app that is deployed, but you want to introduce some DevOps practices for this app, it's going to be pretty useful alone. But I also want to give you a quick overview of what we did so far. In the first module, we talked more about concepts like doing specification-driven development, what is loop engineering, what is graph engineering, how you can build a team of agents that is working on things. So things like that. So it was a bit abstract, right? But then in part 2 and part 3, we actually built an application. So in part 2, we had a live stream and I asked you, what do you want to build? And we came up with an idea. The idea was to build a website for doing system design interviews. So in this system design, in this application, so this is the application we developed, we want to conduct a system design interview. So we as interviewers create a room. Right? So then we create a room and then we share this link with the person we interview. Right. So for example, I'm Alexey. I'm going to be interviewed at this company. And now we have a call. So we both see this thing. And I give you a task. Hey, like I want you to implement the system for I don't know, implement track, right? And then you say, okay, we have this relation database, and then the data goes to through a queue, pulled by this process, right? So we have this thing, and I, as an interviewer, I actually see all these things appearing, right? So this application is not yet at an ideal state. We this is how we finished it in part number 2, and part number 3 was about deploying this thing. So we took this app that we developed locally, and then we put it on Amazon AWS. This was just one of the suggestions. We could have put it anywhere. It didn't have to be Amazon, but we used AWS. We used CloudFormation. And at the end of that session, at the end of that tutorial, I think I'm showing you the wrong thing. At the end of that tutorial, where is deploy a full stack app? At the end of that tutorial, what we had was the app that is deployed on AWS. And we had CI/CD. Every time we make a push, changes are actually propagated to the website. So this is the state we had from the last session. And what we want to do now is actually develop something that not only, okay, we already have this thing that we have code, we push to main, it triggers CI/CD deployment, we go to deployment, to development environment. So what I want to do is also have a production environment that is separate from development environment. So in this environment, the users will actually have access to production, and this development environment is just kind of test bed environment. So all the changes will automatically go to development. We can test these changes there, and if everything is fine, we promote the release we had from development to production. So this is what we are going to do today. But in addition to that, we are going to see what kind of metrics and logs we can collect from our system. We will add a dashboard with observability. We will add alerts if something goes wrong, then an alert will be triggered. We will get an alert, and then we also will implement an agent that is watching for these alerts. And if something happens, it actually fixes the code and goes through this process, right? So by the end of this video, by the end of this tutorial, we will have a I wouldn't say production system, but a system that conceptually is way closer to production than what we started with. So we started with was just a plain fast API application, but now we will have a system that has a setup that is very close to production, right? So of course, for real production, you need to have some other things, right? But it's not possible to cover everything in one single tutorial. So we're just going to focus on the most important things, right? And the rest you can learn when you already need to implement something similar. Right, so that's the plan for today. So about this course, if you want to learn about this, so now we are pre-recording the videos. The course has not started yet. It starts on August 30, like at the end of the August, right? And if you want to register for the course, there is this link in the course. So first of all, please give us a star. And then if you want to register, then you go here and then you register. So I already registered, but like for you, it will look differently. So you just sign up for the course. When the course starts, you'll get an email and we will work together through all this. So in addition to the tutorials that I already recorded and will record, we'll also have homework and we will also have a project at the end, right? So you will also need to implement something similar. Okay, going back to this. So this is where we ended in the last chapter. And what I want is I want to open this article again. Right. So, this article is a draft, but I'm going to, everything that we do today, I'm going to put in this article, and at the end it will look something like this. So it will look polished. Right now, it's just a draft for me, so I can copy prompts from this article to the coding agent, but you can already use this article. You can subscribe to my Substack, and you can use this link to come back later, right? So later when you come back to this, you will see the updated version. So right now it's a draft, but this draft is very useful because I'm going to use prompts from this draft. And if you're following me along, you can also take prompts from here, right? But conceptually, it's very raw, it's drafty, it's actually like 90% AI generated, but then I'll polish it. Okay, the plan is clear. We had, this is the picture we want to have at the end. So this is what we want to have. And the first thing we need to do is we have this part, right? So we have the part from code, going from code to development. And we don't even call this development. So this is just a stack we have. And I think what will also help is if I open this project now on GitHub. Yeah, this one, interview Canva share. So this is the project we started. If I go to workflows, CI, we only have one CI. So in this pipeline, what we do is we run tests. Then we run backend tests and front-end tests. Maybe it's better if I show it from here. Actions. So this is our CI that we did. So we have backend tests, front-end tests, then we run integration tests, and then we deploy it to production. Right now it's called to production, right? And users, so I deployed it to this. I have a domain that I have. So I deployed it there, interviews.aisl.click. And then what I want to do is imagine that we are working on something and I push the change, right? And this change can break something, right? And then the real users will be affected. So I don't want to push the change there on every deploy. And I don't want to update our production instance with every push to our deployment, right? So what I want to have is a more control over what's happening. So whatever agents are working on, we push and it always gets deployed. But I want to stay in control and I want to decide when I actually want to deploy something to promote something. We call it promotion. So we promote something from development to production. So now whatever was running in the dev environment will be running in the production environment. So for that, we need, I'll instruct the agent to create a second independent copy of our development for production. And then I say it has to be a duplicate. So it has to be the same. And the existing one becomes the dev environment. And I try to keep this prompt to tool agnostic because you might not have AWS. Maybe you use something else. Maybe you don't have your own domain, right? So chances are that you have your own domain are pretty low, right? Even though like actually this one click domain costs $3 per year. So it's not that expensive, right? So you can just buy one domain and then use subdomains to deploy whatever you want. But you might not have this, right? So then the instructions I have here, um, they are technology agnostic, but then I'm going to also have some adjustments. And I'm copying the prompt. I have Google Cloud. I have Cloud Code here. For now, I use Sonnet 5. I don't use Opus 5 because I don't have a lot of usage left. So when you use Sonnet, it's actually more like it doesn't drain your usage as fast. And for many tasks, actually Sonnet is fine, right? You don't need anything. You don't need Opus for many things that we're going to do today. You also don't need Fable, right? So Sonnet or Luna model, like if you use Codex, Luna is enough, right? So if you use Luna Max, it should be fine. I wouldn't recommend to use Haiku, but Sonnet is fine. Okay, so this is the prompt I used, and then I want to add one thing because right now this thing is running. So as always, I really like to use dictation mode. So I'm going to use this on Windows. I just press WinH. And now the dictation mode will work. So this URL I use for current website, but what I want to have that this URL is will be used for the production version. And for the dev environment, I want to use, now I'll say what I want to use, sorry. Dev dot interviews dot, so I just want to prefix it with dev, all right? So then whatever will be published to main, maybe I'll just say, so all the pushes that I do through CI/CD, they need to go to dev environment. So the current environment that we have, oops. So whenever we push, CI/CD deploys to the dev environment. So it ends up on that.interviews.aisl.click. Okay. Also, my experience from running these workshops last time showed that agents are taking some time to do these things. So if you maybe something is interesting for you and you want to ask a question, please use the live chat for asking these questions because these agents are going to take some time to do whatever I ask. And to make it less boring, you can take this as an opportunity to ask questions, whether these are the questions about what we're doing right now, or maybe these are the questions about what we did before, or maybe there are questions about in general AI agent usage for coding. Please feel free to ask these questions and I can answer these questions too. And it's nice to see familiar names. So hi Kubilai, hi Luca. Nice to see you here. Sorry if I didn't recognize others. So it's very nice to have you all here. Okay, so right now it's because we use CloudFormation for deployment, and in general, I recommend to use infrastructure as code tools when you deploy. It's not always possible, but when it's possible, when it's some cloud environment, I do recommend to use these tools because then your entire environment is in one file. So right now, this is the case for me. So I have this stack, CloudFormation stack. And probably what we will do is we will create a second stack. I assume this is my assumption that we will have a second stack that is for deployment, right? It will have the same resources, but will be a completely separate thing from the first one. And also, many things I need to add. Many things I do here are simplified, right? So the way we deploy to AWS is not necessarily the production way. So it just gets you going. It just gets you. It just gives you a deployed instance, right? But so here we use ECS. We use EC2 for deploying this, and we just run Docker Compose there. It's not necessarily the best way for deploying things to production. So in production, I would recommend to use something like ECS, Elastic Container Service. Right. So then it's a lot easier to manage these things. So in your pipeline here, when you deploy to production, here. So then you just, in your CI/CD, you build an image, you publish it to ECR, Elastic Container Registry, and then ECS would pull an image from this ECR and to just replace the whatever is running in deployment with a new version. And this way, it's very easy to go back to the previous version. So with our setup, it's not the best option, but this is just FYI that I wouldn't call it like production. Conceptually, this is what a production setup can look like. But if you zoom in on specific things, they are not necessarily implemented in the most production way, right? So the goal here that I have is to illustrate the concepts, right? But when you actually are talking about running things in production, then I would recommend slightly different choice. And maybe for the beginning, I would recommend to use something like Render or Railway or something like that that is doing a lot of management for you, right? But this is just a side note. Let's see what we have here. That's the plan. A new stack as the IP prod. So we'll have it will deploy this thing. Okay. Very point, GitHub, create dev prod, CI workflow. Right now, CI/CD should not automatically fire on deployment to production. So we keep CI/CD unchanged. We will later follow up with that. So what I was doing is I was replying here, like, what should we do here? Require manual approval gate. This is actually what we will do right now, but now I want to focus on just splitting these two things into not splitting, but like having two environments, right? And then I'll have a separate step for approval, right? So this is something I'll do. Same instance, it's okay. Here, new stack. Here I will say, please document it so it's always clear where the dev is, where prod is, and maybe we can have like a one super stack that describes these two stacks, or somehow it's clear what is where. Like the second, the last thing I added is because like right now, if we just uses the same file to create a second stack, at some point, production and dev could diverge, right? So what do we do in this case? Maybe it's already helpful to think advance about things like that and how do we define both? Maybe there is like a way to parameterize it, but also with some things we can deal with them when the problem actually happens, right? So this is a pretty pragmatic approach to just reuse the same stack and deploy it twice. But ideally, everything we do should be captured in code, should be captured in infrastructure. So if let's say right now I'm running my sandbox account, I'm running this in my sandbox account, but if I want to deploy it to actual production, then it's easier to move things around because I can just take my stack and deploy it there without thinking too much about like, well, what is missing. And while it's doing this, so it just asked me about the confirmation. I want to talk about how I do this. So we have this website called courses.datatalks.club. You have seen it already. So if you want to register for AI Dev Tools Zoom Camp, you go here. And this website runs in Django. So actually, if you scroll down, you will see a link to GitHub. Right, and this is where it lives. I've been working on this site for quite some time, and last couple of months, maybe like 6 months, I actively use agents for that. And I want to talk about the setup I have here with the development and production. So what I have is deploy dev. So this is the same Where is the graph? Okay, I guess I just click here. Yeah, so it's very simple. So we run tests, we run deploy. So it's a bit less complicated than what I showed you in our case, right? So here we run more tests. But here I have just one Django project. I don't need to have a separate front end. Right? And then after the test, and you see test is taking some time. After the test, I do deploy. So when I do deploy, it automatically gets deployed to dev.courses.datatalks.club, right? And then I have some fake data here. So this is not the same data. But what I can do is I can poke around, I can test, I can run some automated tests on top of that to make sure that nothing broke. And I think this is one of the tests we have here, right? This is a smoke test, right? So this is, I'm periodically running this test on the dev environment to just make sure that nothing is broken. And then from time to time, what I can do is I can go to this manual production development deployment. And this is a step I trigger manually. Right? So there's not much happening. So I can trigger it manually. I just say, okay, I confirm deployment. And when I don't specify the tag I want to deploy, because each version has a separate tag, I think here we can see the version, right? So this is the tag. Yeah, so if I don't specify, then whatever is running on dev.courses.datatalks.club, you can see also here the version, then whatever is running there is deployed to production, right? So then I run workflow. I'm not going to do it here because I think my production is a bit behind and I want to, even though like all the tests look fine, I don't think this is the moment for me to run. I'll do this a bit later. But this is how I do this. And when it comes to in the environment, I use ECS. And I use Terraform for managing all that, right? So this code is hidden, like the infrastructure is hidden. Here you see only code for, is it? I think I closed it, but there you only saw the code for the platform itself, not for the infrastructure. But I have Terraform there, and yeah, I use ECS for this. So when you have like traffic that is like an application that is used by people, then it's important for being able to easily roll out the change and roll back the change. Then a container management system makes a lot more sense than what we do here. Okay, let's see what we are doing here. While certain days, I'll kick off the new production stack in parallel. Okay, so this thing can take some time because yes, we are creating many things here. So usually creating a new stack is it takes some time. Okay. So then it created a certificate. This is just the HTTPS stuff. But we will soon have two environments. Mukesh, you can use whatever you want. Yes, you can use Azure instead of AWS. You can use whatever you want. So here I just show you conceptually how you do this. And if you look at the prompt, here the prompt doesn't mention any technology at all, right? So this prompt will work with any technology. And if you want to use AWS, you can use AWS. If you want to use Azure, you can use Azure. If you want to use something simpler, I don't know how many of you are actually ready to pay for these services, because like if you run this in AWS, you will have to pay like around maybe $20, $30 per month, especially if you also include like if you want to get a domain, you have to pay for this, right? If you don't want to do this, if you don't want to pay, then there are options that are free, right? And then when you deploy your application here in the previous part, then you can talk to your agent and ask, hey, what are the possible options for me if I don't want to pay, right? How can I host my application? And then depending on whatever technology you chose here, downstream here, the work will look different, like whatever your agent is going to do will look different. But because you have an agent taking care of the technology or of implementing these things, the technology choice doesn't matter as much, right? So here I want to focus on concepts that we want to create this development environment in addition to production environment, right? So we don't want to just have one thing. And when you know this concept, it's just a matter of implementation for your particular tech stack, be it Azure, AWS, or whatever. So let's see. Yeah, it's taking some time. CloudFormation deploy. Okay. So do we already have this thing here? No, not yet. And this thing also doesn't work yet. Because like this is going to be our dev environment, and this is going to be our production environment. Okay, what else to tell you? So I think I told you about this courses website. Um, so then for database, I use also right now, everything we do is just we take a Docker Compose image and we do Docker Compose up on EC2. Like this is not the really best way of doing these things. So in reality, I use a managed database, RDS, the service is called. And of course, like when you do this, it's going to add to the cost, right? So I'm trying to make it more cost effective, and therefore I'm not really using all the services I should be using. So I'm not using ECS, I'm not using RDS. But in reality, if you want to deploy your application and you want to serve real users, then I would suggest to use ECS or something similar like a container management system. If you're outside of AWS, they have this. I wouldn't go with Kubernetes, something more lightweight, but you need a system that is managing your containers or containers for you. And then you need a managed database. A managed database could be RDS or you can use Neon or something. Neon is, yeah, it's like managed Postgres. Mm, but you want to have your database managed. You want to be able to easily make backups. You easily want to upgrade. You don't want to actually deal with database management yourself because this is it's very easy to lose data, right? And if you're dealing with real users, the data is the most valuable part because if something happens to your stack, if something happens to your like let's say EC2 instance, it's not a big deal because you have everything in infrastructure as code. It's very easy to redeploy it. Super easy. You just do this thing, you ask your agent, and it will redeploy the whole infrastructure. But if your data is lost, your data is lost, right? So there is no way, unless you have backups, there is no way you can recover it. That's why it's better to use a managed service for database, and so that you minimize the risk of losing data. And then, of course, you take all the precautions, like you do regular backups, you save these backups in multiple places, and you also periodically try to see if you can actually use this backup to recreate your infrastructure, to or at least a part of the infrastructure that is accessing the database. And did it finish? I think it's still doing this, but from what I can see, this one is already working. Um, but what I'm telling you, actually, I learned it in the hard way. So there was this incident when I dropped the production database, even though it was running on RDS. Um, the data was gone and the backups were gone with the database too. So now I'm taking a lot more um, care and precautions to make sure that I don't accidentally drop the production database. So, and then like you can check this article too. But what I'm doing right now is every day I have a job that is taking the entire database and saving it somewhere. So then I can recreate the entire database. So in addition to the backups that AWS is already doing. So maybe you'll be interested in reading this. But yeah, so for one day, this website was not working because I accidentally deleted all the data. Hopefully, I managed to recover. By I managed to recover, I mean AWS managed to recover. But it was a lesson learned hard way. So please use managed services and please do backups, right? Especially if you're serious about like deploying whatever you created with AI. Because at some point you probably are watching this because you want to create something that is serving real users. And for that, taking care of your data is very important. Okay, did it finish? So let's see. I think it will take some time to change. So we don't have to wait till it goes back. We can continue. So now what I want to do is I want to continue and split our deploy into two steps. I actually wouldn't call it even split. I would just say, because we already have this in addition to having what we have, I want to have a manual workflow that promotes. And now that we have two stacks, please commit everything that we have. And as the next step, I want to have a manual approval, manual gate for having whatever we have in the development stack automatically deployed to, not automatically, sorry. I want to do this manually, but when I trigger this manual flow in GitHub, I want whatever version is running in the dev environment to be deployed to production environment. How can we do this? And the reason I asked how can we do this at the end, because I don't remember if we have any registry here. So here we have CI/CD and we do deployment, but I think we might be building here, like, I don't know. So probably we need to use something like ECR. So we built an image, we push it to container registry, and then the deployment pulls from this container registry when we deploy, but also when we promote something to production, then for us it's very easy. We can say whatever is running in production now should switch from this image to that image. Do we use ECR or something similar? Instead of using ECR, you can just use Docker registry. I think it's free. Especially if you're not running on AWS and you're running on something like Render. You'll probably need to use Docker registry, not ECR. But ECR, like since I'm on AWS, it makes sense to use the services that AWS has. AWS has ECR. So this is just a place where you push images and you get images from. Okay, I hope I'll have enough usage workload. Yeah, should be fine. I was just a bit afraid because with both Codex and Cloud, I'm nearing the limits and both reset in a couple of days. Okay, while it's doing this, what should I tell you? Maybe you have some questions. Yeah, I don't really know what it's doing right now. So I think it ran this and now it's thinking about something, right? It wants to do something. So probably we will see a GitHub workflow after this. Oh no. So we're just waiting on the command. So it says this one should be working. It's not yet. And maybe it's just getting started. So I think this is where it actually deploys, but it doesn't point yet to our domain. Oh, now it works. Okay. Okay, I think it just didn't finish the first work yet. Um, Curious about the painting behind you. Yeah, it's private, so I will not tell about many details. But yeah, it's a nice painting, and the story is that the wall was empty, and I wanted to have something there, and then I got a present. And then at first I put it there, not there, but it was behind me, so you couldn't really see it. But now I set it a bit to the side, so then people could actually see this. I'm not really interested in paint art, but I wanted, it was a very practical thing to do. I just had an empty wall, and when I do streams, I wanted to have something on the background. And year and a half, or maybe was it 2 years ago, or maybe three? 2024, when was it? Okay, I think it was the end of 2023 even. Anyways, yeah, since then I have this painting. But yeah, I'm not really into arts. I'm trying to get into design now because like okay, sometimes AI creates good design, but sometimes it's just terrible. And actually, that's the reason we use Lovable to create the design. Because if I just use Claude Code or Codex to create design, then what we will have as the version number one is not really great, right? So then I prefer Lovable because Lovable creates good designs. So that's what I'm trying to learn about now. Like, how can we create good design? What is good design? How to design applications in such a way that people can actually find what they're looking for. Because if we don't do this, AI creates something like that. So this is another website I have, and I needed to do a lot of work to make it simpler. But still, like if we go, let's say, to the admin panel, you don't see it. It's a mess. Like there are so many things, and it's so complicated. And like sometimes these things are uh, aligned on the left. Sometimes, like it's for some reasons, it's center. And then the interfaces that it creates are pretty complicated. So I'm trying to learn design to also do it better. And what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to turn this DataTalks.Club, which is designed like in 2020, into something that looks like that. So this is like a new design for DataTalks.Club. Yeah, still work in progress. Yeah, so that's the extent to which I'm interested in art. So maybe it's more like very practical application. It's work in progress, but I want to put everything that we have on DataTalks.Club plus this courses platform, plus like all the other things in one place. And it's also a Django application. Okay, so did it finish? No, I think it's wrapping up the deployment part, and now it will do the this ICD. Yes, I want to push. Yeah, it also added promote YAML. Won't be usable from the Actions UI until it's pushed to main. Okay. So I think I can. And yeah, like I didn't draw it myself. Like at the beginning, I had an illustrator. So these things are hand drawn, right? But then now, of course, you can use AI to create something similar. So I still wanted to have kind of the same uh, cozy feeling, I guess, and palette here. Anyways, where are we now? So I wanna go here and check what we did. So yeah, we have now this new thing, promote, and we have actions, and now promote dev to prod. It's a manual one, run workflow. Okay. And it didn't answer my question about, or maybe it did, I just didn't see this, about ACR. to answer your question, no ECR, no registry at all. The deploy model builds from source on the target instance itself, which is what I wanted to avoid, right? So what I want to have is the experience that we build it once, we build it in CI/CD, we push it to registry, and then we deploy it to development. So we have a Docker image, we deploy it to development. Then we see that it works in development, and we are sure that it works in development. If it works in development, then we promote it to production. It will also work there, right? But if right now the process we have is that we build the image first on dev, and then we build the same image on prod, there could be discrepancies. If we do it on different days, maybe the libraries are different, maybe the code is slightly different. I don't know. Some things could be different. And then the image that we will have in production is going to be different from the image we had in development. And then it can lead to some things that we don't want. So then I want to say it. Let's use ECR. I'll just dictate. I want to use ECR, and we have in our CI/CD for the deployment, for development, I want to build the image, and I want to pull this image in development. And when we promote from development to production, we already know what is the version that is running in development. So then in production, we can just pull this version, and we can run it. We can run it there too. So then we ensure that whatever works in development actually works in production. And then the way I like building the version number is this one. So I have the date here. So this is date in UTC, date and time in UTC, plus the Git hash 7, like the hash ID. The format for version, year, month, day, Git sha, like this. So then I know, like here, I know when it was built. So I can immediately see, so right now is 18th. So I know that my production is 5 days behind from development. And I also know which hash was used to actually for this particular version. And actually this ECR is something we should have thought about in the previous video, probably in the previous tutorial. But then again, the previous tutorial wasn't really about DevOps. But here, what we want to have, maybe I'll draw you. So do I have paint? So what I want to have is, no, maybe it's better if I do this. So I'll create a new slide, and I'll just draw it here. So what we have here. Right now, I am as a user. Oops. As a user, I'm pushing code to Git. GitHub. So then there is a code, yeah. Then there is a GitHub action. And then the code gets to the dev environment. So this is the path we have right now. So the code goes from here, then yeah, to dev. So what I want to do is right now, what we do is we build the image here on the dev, right? So GitHub action just triggers, say, hey, like whatever is running there, rebuild the image on dev and serve it, right? And then we replicated the same thing on production. So then it's us. We trigger manual deploy, and we do this. So this thing is bad because, as I said, if when we build here and we build here, maybe a few day, there is a few day difference. So we cannot guarantee that the image we get here in prod will be the same as the image we have in dev, right? And then because of this discrepancy, there could be some consequences, right? So maybe some things might not work. So what I want to do instead is have a setup where we have a container registry. So then GitHub action would build the image, right? So then we'll have an image, and then GitHub action will just say to dev, hey, like whatever is built and is here in the registry, use it for serving. And when we do manual, so I think what we're missing here is the action. So we'll call it promotes action, right? So what we will do here is that whatever the image is running in development, it will go to production too, right? So this is the step we are missing right now, and this is what I'm doing. So for this, I'm going to use ECR. And if you do something else, like it could be Docker registry, it could be something else. So the fix didn't take, still failing. Well, yeah. So now we have this ECR repo. Deploy dev, promote its own tiny independent stack. Okay, so it's a shared resource, right? So this resource is going to be shared between the dev and production environment because it's the same registry. I think that's why the agent decided that it needs a separate stack. So then this is running in the, sorry. So then we have this stack is the development stack. Then we have production stack, and we have the registry stack, right? And then maybe we should also draw here that here is just one rectangular, but what we also have inside is we have a database, right? So now we have like a database here, and we have a database here. So like this is an entire stack. And the database, we don't really do much for this database. We just deploy this Docker Compose, right? It starts Postgres. And as I said, this is not the end state you want to be. Like for just version 1, it's fine. But eventually you want to have a managed database. So let's see. And these things, they need some patience, right? So I'm doing this live, and this is the third time I'm doing it. I'm kind of also not regretting, but like I keep forgetting that it takes some time. I hope we will manage to finish what we want, because for us the plan is also to set up alerting, and also at the end have an agent fix our system. But at least conceptually, we'll go through all these things, even if we don't manage to cover everything in one go. Okay, what does it do right now? So maybe I should go through all the changes here. At some point, I asked it to. Okay, I asked it to push, so then it pushed. And then I asked it to have an ACR, right? So then, oh, yeah, equals a real gap. Thanks. It will create a new shared ECR repo, not owned by dev or prod, so deleting either environment can take the registry down. Okay. Deploy dev builds the image on GitHub Runner. This makes sense. promote read switch version tag currently shares a digest with dev in ECR. Okay, so you actually decided to use ECR as the registry for dev. So I was thinking it would just look whatever is deployed in dev and use it, but this also works. IAM EC2 instance roles get scope. Okay, so they get permission to pull images and SSM deploy. So this is the thing that we use for deployment. So we don't build the images on the box, but we are pulling the images. And I think this is much better because we build once in CI/CD and we can just use this image everywhere. And actually, this should have been the way we did it in the very beginning. But in the previous section, in the previous tutorial, like for me, it wasn't important how exactly we do this, just the fact that we do this, but now we're kind of preparing to be more production ready. So it also makes sense to do this now. But later, when you do this like as your own project and you do this full stack, for you, it makes sense to think about these things when you deploy, right? So that when you deploy, you already think about having two environments, having dev environment, having prod environment, and also having this ECR, having this registry, and having a setup that is similar to this. Okay. So I don't really understand what is like this, I guess, some parameters. Um, so it tries to make, because it uses the same stack for both dev and prod. That's why, yeah, it is if, I guess. Anyways, like I'll not spend time really understanding what's happening there right now. But some things could be important, like for example, this image tag, right? So this is whatever is running in production. And then this is when we run it. So we pull the image. Okay. So we log into AWS, we pull the image and we run it. Okay. I mean, as long as it works. But here I said like I wouldn't like I don't want to really understand every line here right now. Yes, but then conceptually at the end you want to understand how exactly your infra runs, right? Because you want to spot any inefficiencies there. You want to understand what are the points where it can break. What also helps, I'll not do it here, but I suggest you do this when you are working with something serious, is that you launch a separate session of Claude Code or Codex or whatever you use, and have a powerful model like Fable to um, analyze, to audit the infra you have. And you can say, hey, walk me through the infra, find any weak points and see, and tell me how we can improve these weak points. And then it actually helps. It doesn't have to be a very powerful model. If you just want to understand what you have, what kind of infrastructure you have, you can ask a simple model to do that. Also, what's important is to understand what the cost is, right? And now, because we introduced dev and prod environment, we just doubled the cost. And yeah, so you also need to be aware of that, right? That what is my cost? And then what you can do is for dev, you can have small machines, but for prod, you have like real machines, bigger machines that can deal with more traffic. Because, for example, for me here, I log it, I log in maybe once per week or even less often. And we have this regular test that is running on dev environment, right? So that's the reason we kind of need it. But for the rest of the time, I don't need it. So then I can try to find what are what are the more cost efficient solutions for this dev environment, right? Maybe I don't need to keep it on all the time, up and running, and perhaps I can turn it on and off when I need it. Right now, it's always on for my case, but then if you want to really optimize it, if you're concerned about the money you spend, which you should be, right? Especially if you're paying out of your own pocket, it's not a company where you work on. in both cases, of course, you should be careful with the money, but especially if it's your pet project and you live in India, you cannot easily afford like a lot of spending a lot of money on infrastructure, and like every dollar matters. Then of course you want to really understand what is happening and how you can optimize the uh, the spending, the cost for this infra. Okay, so I guess it found some problems and it found what are these problems, and it also found the solution for them, which is good, but it takes time, right? It's good that it found problems, and like if you're actually working on this, like you can spend some time on this, but like we actually need to move forward. So what I'll do in parallel to that, we can actually start, I can start a separate session. I'll do that. Because like it will take some time to finish. So I think it's called AI system design. So I'll start a new session. I'll use Claude. It's Sonnet. So what I want to do next is, now we have the dev environment, now we have the prod environment, but if something happens, so let's say I can close it. So where is it? So if I introduce a bug here, so let's say if there is a bug, right? And my tests don't catch this bug, and then I deploy it to dev, and then I think everything is fine. I promote it to production, and then users start having this bug. So I want to understand when it happens. Maybe the pages are slower to load. Maybe the time, so for us, what could be important is the time between the user here adds something and between the time I see it, this time is very slow, right? I mean, this time is very low, right? The latency is low. So there are some things that we can measure, and like we can look at CPU utilization, we can look at memory utilization, things like that. And if something starts happening, let's say we introduce a bug and we see that the pages become slower, right? Maybe we add a new feature, but now the time to render a page, instead of 100 millisecond, becomes 1 second, right? And this is significant delay, right? So we don't want that. Or we can see that, I don't know, some things take longer time. Or we can see that there are this 500 status code, right? So internal server errors. So we can also see that. So there are actually some bugs. And if we see this 500 status, we can do something about this, right? So this is why we need monitoring. So this is why we need monitoring, and we want to track all these metrics. We want to track how much time it takes to render a page. We want to track all these things. We want to track error codes. We want to track all that, and we want to display it on the dashboard. And if something happens, we actually have a dashboard with all these things displayed on that. So this is called observability and monitoring. So for me, observability and monitoring are kind of synonyms. So monitoring is what you use to achieve observability, I guess. Or observability is like a broader concept that includes monitoring, includes collecting metrics, displaying these metrics and stuff, right? So this is what we want to have. And that's why what I will do is we have fast API backend. If you use something else, we can actually have instrument the backend with OpenTelemetry, right? And then whatever you use, it will work. So OpenTelemetry, or OTel for short, this is a standard for collecting. Yeah, we can see that OpenTelemetry is open source observability framework for cloud native software. Well, basically, it's a thing for collecting, of knowing what is happening in your application, right? So then this is the standard, and traces is like, yeah, we can read more about this. But basically, this is what we want to collect, right? So traces, explain. So I'll ask, explain traces, spans, and all the other concepts from OpenTelemetry. Okay, I wanted to use explain traces, spans, and all the other concepts from OpenTelemetry. So I think trace is like one single call. Span is multiple calls grouped together. Yeah, request created trace. Trace is made of spans. Yeah, I was wrong. So trace is like multiple things grouped together. Metrics summarize behavior over time. Log record individual events. Context. Anyways, you can go through these things. I think it's maybe what I should do is just ask this thing, ask to implement it, and then we go through this. Right. But anyways, so here the goal is that we start collecting these things, start collecting these logs from our application so that we can display them, right? We can display them and we can also act on something when it's wrong, because when we can collect it, we can display, we can also create alert, and we see that there is an elevated number of errors, then we can do something about this. And I see a question, what is the expected approximate cost for building up using the prompts AI for this course? So in the bare minimum you need to have is a coding agent. You can actually get a coding agent for free. Anti-gravity. The free plan can still get you somewhere. Um, and then, but I would actually recommend to get a ChatGPT subscription or OpenCode Go subscription. It's pretty cheap, like $5 for the first month. So you can start with like a pretty low subscription, because if you use services with free, you'll find them, but you just hit the limit very quickly, and this is very annoying. And then you have to wait. So I don't really recommend using free services. If you have, you can find a way to use free services. But then also I would just invest a little bit, at least like in open code Go, and use the models from there. Right. So this is the bare minimum you need to spend. Then for the rest, you can actually use free services. Like for deployment, you can use Render, which gives you 1 month for free. I think you just once you have this coding agent, you can ask it, hey, what are my options? What can I use to deploy the application, right? And then it will give you different options. So the stack I use here right now, the stack I show you, is not free. And it really depends on what exactly you use here. So I think, we can ask it how, maybe we'll just ask commit, all changes committed are pushed. So I think here, I'll keep this session open just in case. But then in a different session, I can ask, so I'll ask how much does this app cost per month, or how much does running this app cost per month? So then it will give us some ideas. But yeah, if you want to do it for free, you'll find a way. But I would still suggest investing some money into this. And if you have a possibility, I would suggest learning like cloud platforms like AWS. Uh, it also depends what your goals are. If you're if you want to improve your employability, so then doing things in the cloud provider that companies use will increase your chances. If you're just doing your side project and you want to optimize your budget, that's another thing, right? So then depending on what you do. Okay, I think I used the wrong repo. How much This project costs per month. I expect like 10, 20 per month for this one. I think we did a breakdown last lesson. I don't remember how much exactly was there, but now would be 2 times that. For ECR, the cost is negligible because you store the data in in S3 and storage is very cheap. So most of the money will go into compute. Okay, what is it doing right now? So it's doing OpenTelemetry stuff. So we have this app telemetry. So, okay. So then we have instrument application. And then it added some stuff to Docker Compose. Okay. Ah, yeah, we need this exporter. Even though I didn't tell it to use exporter, we will. So OpenTelemetry, the first step we did is, let me show you. So here we will have like an hotel thing. So let me make it smaller. Right, so then it will be some some instrumentation. But first it will just say, okay, I want to collect this, and that. But we're not telling where to put it yet, right? Then we will use a database for this. We will use Prometheus. Right, so then whatever hotel is collecting will go there. So then we will need a connector, right? Something that takes data from this and puts them to Prometheus. And then on top of Prometheus, we will have also Grafana. So Grafana will connect to Prometheus, and I should use this way. So Grafana will connect to Prometheus and then use the data to display it. And then we can also, Prometheus can also send alerts. Right? So this is where we want to go now. Okay, backend instrumentation, Fast API and its SQL Alchemy engine and instrumented using OpenTelemetry instrumentation Fast API. Okay. Traces and metrics are exported as OTLP. No collector. So OTLP is standard for OpenTelemetry. This OTLP. So what does OTLP stand for? I don't remember. OpenTelemetry protocol. Yeah. So it just uses the protocol, but nothing is collecting this data. So now we need to set a collector. And then I want to collect, I want to use Prometheus. I want to use Grafana, and Loki and Tempo are services also from Grafana. Loki is a log aggregator system, and what else? Tempo. So this is I think for storing these traces, right? So then like everything will go there. We will store all the, so Prometheus is the time series database. So it will store the metrics, but then we will need Loki as a log storage and Tempo as the traces storage. Okay. So now I do this. Did we commit? I think in our agents we have to commit regularly, so it should have committed. So normally I would start a new session here, but I think for this one, it's better to, if I just continue here, because it already has the context about OpenTelemetry. So I just say add the collector now. So let's see the cost. I checked the actual infrastructure, 2 CloudFormation stacks, dev and prod. Monthly cost 26, 2 root volumes, elastic IPs. This hosted zone. Okay, but I already paid for this one. Cloud front 0, and this is 0. So 35.40 per month. So yeah, I wouldn't say that it's insignificant, right? So if this is a serious application, then you can consider this, but you will find a way to run this for cheaper. Right. And also the setup we have is not necessarily the best one. Like I already mentioned that here, mm, here dev and prod, we'll just run EC2, but it would be better if we run it in ECS. So that would add up on top of the cost. But also for all these things, it's better to run them in a virtual private network. Like you put this thing in a VPC, uh, virtual private cloud, I think it's so VPC. And then only people who are trusted with IPs that are trusted can connect to Grafana, can connect to these databases, right? So this is typically what you do in companies. And then it would also add up on top of that. So then at the end, you look at something like $50 per month, and this is how much I pay for this. So it's around 50, 60 maybe. Yeah, because I also pay for the database, right? So this database here is a managed database. So I think it's like 60, maybe it's even 70 per month. Yeah, it's not like super cheap, right? Okay. So I think that was enough to answer your question. So let's see what we do here now. So we are adding a TLP collector. So I asked it to create a folder observability with Docker Compose. So we already have, maybe I should open it. Let me open a folder. So this is our app. So I'll open it. So we already have Docker Compose stack. So this is our Docker Compose that we run locally. And this is, I think, what gets deployed in ECS, right? We have this Postgres. We have some stuff here, right? And what I asked it to do is to create another folder, which I called observability. And it will put everything here, all these things like Loki, Hotel, Prometheus, Grafana. And it will also create like have a Docker Compose file that can connect to it. You see, and then we define a network here in Docker Compose. And here, the Docker Compose that we will have, it will share. So these things will be in the same network, right? So then from our application, I can also connect Grafana, I can connect to Prometheus, all that. Okay, so while it's doing that, let me check what else I have at Grafana dashboard. Then we will run this locally, and then we will run it production. And then I want to break the application to see that we have errors there. And then I want to actually have an on-call engineer that will wake up and fix the error. So that's the plan. I think it will take like another 45 minutes, if not more. So probably again, instead of a 90-minute session, it will be like 120. So I just 1 second. Yeah, so it will take a bit more time. But also, I think like for these videos, most of the time we're just waiting for this thing. So I give a prompt and I wait for like 20 minutes. I correct. I don't know how entertaining it will be to watch when we actually do the course. But yeah, I think you'll figure it out, like how to watch and to what extent to use the notes. So yeah, it's creating this all the things we asked. So here, I think I can safely finish it. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's selecting a free port on my computer so it can show Grafana. And I have a lot of things running on this computer, so that's why it needs to find an empty slot, empty port. Okay, while it's running, I'll take a small break and I'll be back like in a couple of minutes. Okay, so where are we? Uh, Now it figured out the ports, and now it wants to run the same thing. Sorry, our backend. So then it can check that things are actually being exported. Okay. I think so. This is what exactly is this? Probably the exporter, right? How do I run our application? Is okay, this Prometheus. So that must be Loki. I'll just ask, is our fast PF running? So I see a question, does everything run through Bash? Well, this is what I have on this computer, but it doesn't have to be Bash, right? So if you are using Windows, coding agents will use PowerShell instead of Bash. But yeah, so here it's Bash. Okay, so this is where we have this thing. Okay, it's running. Uh, how how I test. So let me dictate it. So now I want to perform an action and I want to see this action to be reflected on the dashboard. So let's track these metrics. So I want to track how many interview rooms we create, how many people are active in the interviews right now, and also how many elements in the interview room we create. So I think these are just like out of from the top of my mind, the things, the actions that users make. And you need to think what are the core actions that users make in your application, and then you need to track these actions, right? And then so these are the core actions, and if something happens in production, you will see that the number of these actions goes down, then something is broken, right? So then you can set up an alert, and then you can see, okay, uh, I need to do something. Okay, so let's see what we will add now. So it also created the README. Let me check what we have in README. Optional Docker Compose stack for observability. So we have backend, auto collector that sends data to Tempo, Prometheus and Loki. And then from Loki, like all these things go to Grafana. Cool. So this is actually what I wanted to have. Okay, everything is local. Yeah, we haven't deployed it yet. So I hope we will have time to actually deploy it. Because I want to show you how we actually are, how it will look in production, right? So how we will see all these dashboards and how we'll set up alerting. Okay, I think it found some errors and it's fixing these errors. Oh no. Anyways, yeah, I think it's just doing what I asked it to do. So let me see what is next. Oops, I didn't want to change that. And I'll also clean it a little bit. Okay, I think it's better. So Grafana is what? Huh. Where is Grafana running? Let me check. Because I like typically it's 3000 something, but then because I am running things 3001. It doesn't look like Grafana to me. Yeah, well, probably you will not be such a busy computer with so many ports running. Do you think it was? No, because like I have things running there. Let's do 30, 30. I think I don't have anything there. The article link you will find in the description. So under the video, you see that there is the article and there is a link for the course. Yeah, you will have it. And then at the beginning of the article, if you need, there are links to the previous articles too. So right now we're here, like I think it's in the middle. And I think this is what I did. Like I didn't ask it to add a panel, but I asked what kind of things I want to collect. So then I will also ask, now let's display these things on Grafana. But probably the way I asked was that I also want to see it in Grafana. Right? Yeah, I say I want to see this on dashboard. So now it collects all these metrics, and then I think it will deploy them on Grafana too. Yeah, for me, actually, like this mapping, I always get confused. What is host? What is container, right? So I think here, this is the host and this is the container, right? I think Visual Studio Code changed the design a little bit. I don't remember these tabs looking like that. Anyways, where are we now? Um, yeah, I think it just makes sure that these things work across the board, right? So they are all connected. So then it created the dashboard. So this is our Grafana, admin, go away. So the new password will be admin. Okay. Okay. What happened? So let's tear everything down cleanly and run the full backend test suite one more time. Okay. Let's wait then. I was hoping I could test it already. Okay. So does Grafana run? Not anymore. Okay. So it stopped it. Um, did we create the dashboard? Let me just. Did we create the dashboard with the panels with the metrics I asked? It's so much faster to dictate, right, than to type. Okay, so since we created, I'll skip the part where I test this locally because we are short on time, and I'll go to the next step where we actually deploy it. So let's run this in dev and prod too. I mean, ideally, we should run it both dev and prod, but I was a bit tempted to skip this part and run it only in production just for testing. And perhaps in some situations, it's valid, right? So you want to save a bit on your dev. And well, for production, it's important, but for dev, maybe this is something you want to save. So then let's see how it recommends doing this. So maybe I should have checked it how it runs locally. Again, I'm short of time. We don't like I already run over 90 minutes. So I want a bit speed up. So maybe I should have asked it, hey, how can we run now this in development and production instead of just saying, let's run it there. Because I think what we do is right now we have these EC2 machines, and probably it will just run them on these EC2 machines, right? Which is probably nothing wrong with this. The setup I would have is I would have it separately. I would deploy them separately, so both dev and prod send metrics to the same system, right? And then in this system, I would just say, okay, I want to see metrics only for dev, and I want to see metrics only for prod. Doesn't have to be this way. Can be different. It doesn't have to be also Prometheus and Grafana. So what I use um, for this, for courses, I use CloudWatch, right? So I don't really use like specialized solutions. I just build on top of whatever AWS has because it seemed a bit easier for me, right? Rather than hosting Prometheus and Grafana. Then instead of hosting these things, you can use hosted solutions. I don't know, there are so many of them. Datadog, New Relic, Sentry, like there are many of them, right? So if you ask your agent, hey, where can I host my metrics and set up alerts, you'll find many, many, many solutions, right? So Grafana and Prometheus and self-hosting them is one of options. And this is if you don't want to pay for a hosted solution, um, this is what you can end up doing. Doesn't have to be this stack, could be some other stack, right? But if you're running a small website, then perhaps you don't want to do this. Perhaps you want to just use a solution that is managing this for you, right? And then you just point your hotel connector to the external service, and that's it. Okay, before I touch anything live, so let's see. Can we just deploy this stack once for Prometheus in Grafana? So both prod and dev send metrics there, and then I can just distinguish between prod metrics and dev metrics. So then it's a bit cheaper for me to run it. Yeah, because right now it says both instances are T4 G small, and if we run Grafana there and we run like all these things, they will just not work, right? So this is what it says, tells us. And that's why I was thinking maybe we just have a separate stack for these things. Okay. So then after we do this, the next thing would be introducing a bug. And then I think I can do this in parallel. So what I want to do is now I want to test that our alerting system works. So what I want to do is have a bug that will slip into production. So let's introduce a bug in such a way that it will affect some of our metrics, but it will not be caught by the test. So what we can do is we can just, let's say when somebody creates a component in the interview room, sometimes it will not work. Can we do that? I want to do this for testing. I think these things can happen in parallel, right? So for one thing, I deploy Prometheus, Grafana, and the rest of the stuff. Um, and here I introduce a bug. Yeah, and in this setup that I have, so we'll have one stack here, then another stack here, then third stack would be this observability stack, and then finally this registry is like a fourth stack. But if you use something like Terraform, I actually wouldn't like have separate stacks. I would just have separate files of Terraform, and then it would still be like one Terraform state. But I think because we used the same here stack for both dev and prod, that's why we have this multi-stack thing at the end. But I think at the end it doesn't matter, like as long as you understand what you have in each of these things, what are the stacks here, what they do, how to work with them, it's fine. Like you just let your agent work. And then also once we have CI/CD here, right, we take the access to AWS from our agent. So the agent cannot go and directly modify the resources, right? So they will only be able to do this through CI/CD. And in CI/CD, we have this additional, how to say, control gate where we run all these tests and stuff, right? So chances that we accidentally break are lower because we have all the quality checks here before it actually goes to dev. Then another set of quality checks, and only then after manual deploy, it goes to production, right? So then at the end, the agent shouldn't be able to poke around our infrastructure, right? So right now we are creating the infrastructure, so they have the access, but then at some point you take away the access and we only use CI/CD to do the changes. Okay, where are we now? That makes sense. Intentionally flaky create component where save canvas, bug shapes on data loss. Get it behind the environment variable. So I want it to look like a real bug. So when we add a git commit, um, I want to like stage it like it's a real bug because later I want to test that we can automatically recover from this. So I don't want to write in logs that it's like a staged stage bug, right? So I want to look it real. So then I want to test how our agents are able to figure out this bug in production and fix it. Of course, like if you do this for your projects, this is optional, right? You don't really have to break your project. Okay, so let's see what we have here. I've built and fully verified the shared stack design locally, code, infra, uh, yeah, yes, go. Restart both too. So it needs to restart dev and prod, so it's fine if we restart them. And then while we're introducing the bug here, so what I will do after we deploy is I want to have an agent that will react to alerts that are coming from our Prometheus. Oops, that are coming from our Prometheus. So there will be an agent. I'll put it here. Sorry, my diagram becomes messy. So the agent would listen to Prometheus. Right, and if something happens, it gets an alert, then it will go fix the code. And when the code is fixed, it will go through like the usual flow, right? Fix, tests, dev, and then the agent can also promote to prod. And then the agent will not, like we need to think like if the agent should be able to get access to logs, probably yes. But this is something like right now, what I'll do is I'll just run this agent on this computer, right? It will have access like admin access. In reality, you don't want to give your agent the admin access. You want to also to only give it access to logs and perhaps other things, right? And then it should be able to uh, push to GitHub, right? And then maybe trigger questionably, like, I don't know, in some cases, maybe you also want to give this agent access to pull the manual deploy to production thing, right? Um, so it's up to you to define what is acceptable for your particular case, what is not acceptable, but what you can have a setup where agent is listening to Prometheus and can automatically implement the changes. Also, in some cases, what you can implement, and I know some people do this, GitHub issues, right? So the agent is pulling constantly GitHub issues. And if there is an alert in Prometheus, then there is a GitHub issue are created. So if you do it this way, this is not something we will implement now, but for you just how to say as inspiration. So if you create a GitHub issue and the agent will pull this issue and implement it, then you can use this workflow to implement pretty much everything, right? In addition to fixing bugs, production bugs, it can be like any other thing. And then the agent would just pull things from issues, work on them, push the code, and yeah, do everything you need. In this case, I want the agent to listen to Prometheus alerts and then fix the code, right? Because here we focus on DevOps, but then it's more like, I don't know how it's called, agent ops or whatever, like how to actually make process in such a way that every time there is an issue, it gets automatically picked up and solved. And of course, you probably want to have some quality control in this case. If you just get issues from GitHub, first of all, you need to check if this issue is created by somebody you trust. If it is, then you have like all the things we talked about in our first lesson. Like you have APM that defines the issue. Then you have, where is it? So you have IPM that defines the issue properly. Then you have, where is it? You have the software engineer that fixes the issue. And then you have the QA engineer that makes sure the quality is good, right? So then, like you can build a more complicated system to make sure that the quality is there, right? So you can go really crazy with automation here. But let me keep this simpler and just do this part. I found a real bug and it just broke the live dev development. Let me check. Like I think this okay, I think this is a different bug. Where it looks normal, defensive fix, dedupe canvas component created by duplicate pointer events. It survived the tests. Okay. So we introduced a bug. But the bug that it found here, the other agent, I think is different. So I'll just let it work on this. By the way, let me check if these things are actually interviews. They're actually working. Yeah, still working. And we have this Python design thing that I created at the beginning. So how do I reproduce this bug? And then this other agent doesn't need to know, shouldn't know about this bug. I think we have it running here. Okay. Fast reproduce start the backend if it's not already running. Okay. Okay, real UI reproduction. Open a room, pick a component tool. Okay, let's do it here. Open a room, pick a component tool. Okay. Do I need to node or service box? Where's the node? Sticky node, okay. And drop two of the same type close together. Okay. Either by clicking or two participants both placing the same. I don't understand what the bug is. But anyways, we have a bug, right? So we have a bug and there is a way to reproduce it. Let me not spend time to really understand what the bug is, but like there is a bug. Um, when we reproduce this bug in production, how can we see it? What kind of alerting should we get? Okay, what do we do here? I think, yeah, we're just deploying the stack, right? So it's still taking some time. So apparently there is a bug. I didn't really understand it, but um, yeah, there's a bug and the agent can reproduce it. Okay, and this one cannot finish the deployment. Yeah, these things require time and patience. So right now, nothing will alert you. There is no alerting there at all. Just Grafana dashboard with three stats. No Prometheus alert manager, no Grafana alert rules, no notification channel anywhere in the repo. Someone would have to be starting the dashboard. Okay, actually, this is a good point because let me close this. So we add a task, but we need to create an actionable alert that we didn't do, right? Um, let's add an alert for that. I mean, here we kind of cheating, right? So we already know what to alert for. And to be honest, I haven't really completely understood what the problem is that we have. Like somehow when they collide, what happens? I don't know. But yeah, maybe it's a bit of a far-fetched example. But for us, the important part is that there is a bug, there is an alert. the alert can fetch the can it, with this alert we can understand that something is wrong with our system, and then we can act on this. Yeah, but I think like it's a very corner case that like in practice we probably will not have this situation. But here, for the sake of the demo, I want to do this. And I think right now when it will deploy it, I'll just ask it to take a shortcut and deploy whatever current. But I think our tests are fast, right? So we don't, maybe I shouldn't do this. Let me check how fast we can run these tests. It's 2 minutes. I think it's possible that we just wait for 2 minutes, right, for it to get deployed. Okay, this is taking time, right? So something is down, it's figuring out what is wrong. Um, do we already have Grafana running? Grafana deployed and running. It's running this, and I am pressing Ctrl B, so then I can actually do other things while this command is executing. Grafana is not deployed yet. Okay. And then it says there are other things. Okay, I'll let it work. Um, so perhaps I'll start the session in parallel. Um, I think I have to be fast because um, I have another session soon. Like, I mean, another workshop. AI system. So agent. So here, right now, I am deploying the stack, the observability stack. It's been deployed yet, but I already want to prepare for an agent that is a script that is constantly checking the Prometheus alerts. When it sees that there is alert, it starts a Claude code session where it runs it in headless mode and figures out what the problem is and solve this problem. Um, okay, so where's my prompt? My prompt was, I don't know, call engineer folder. Uh, yeah. So this is a setup I'll have. In reality, you'll probably have something else, not necessarily on the same computer, right? As you where you deploy. Could be something like um, where is it? Like, let's say when there is alert, then you have a Lambda that reacts to this alert. Then it starts a computer with agent. This agent has access to Cloud Code subscription or Cloud, like, I don't know, some agent that can do what you need, right? And then it will get the instructions. You need to do that. And the agent is going to be executed, or sorry, the agent is going to execute these things and then push the code, right? And then it will go through all these stages. So that's the vision I have right now for what we do. I mean, it will run locally, but this is how, if I were to design a system like that, this is how I would approach it. And again, this thing is kind of optional. I just wanted to show what is possible to do with AI. And I try to make it tool agnostic, right? But there are many, many solutions that are already doing this, right? So here I'm just kind of stitching together all the open source tools and the other tools we have, like this Claude. But in reality, perhaps there is already an agent that you can just hook into your infra that will be way faster to achieve that. So the alerts are Grafana managed, not Prometheus managed. Okay, whatever. Um, so let's do that. For now, test it with local host, and then we will use the prot URL. And I already have a project where I run Cloud Code in this headless mode. Like right now, this is not a headless mode; it's terminal, 2E terminal UI mode, right? Terminal headless mode is, I think, when you run it with. Do I not have it? Okay. You can run Claude with P as prompt. What's your name? Right, and then it will just run this prompt. Right. So then it doesn't start the application. So this is what we want to use. And I think it will figure this out, but I have already done something similar. So then if you have done this similar and you figure this out, you can just point it to, hey, in this project I did this, I want to do something similar. So let's see what it finds. And then if it gets stuck or if it needs a nudge, then I'll say, hey, go check this repo. So all 5 containers are up on dev. Why are you creating containers? I thought we would create a separate stack for observability. Because I think this is what I asked it to do, right? And then it says all 5 containers are up on dev. And this is not what I really wanted. So our app, Docker Compose unchanged, observability stack, fully separate Compose project. I didn't merge them. What I asked you to do is to create a separate stack, CloudFormation stack, with all the observability that is connected to both development and production. Can we not do this here, please? Like right now, I just want to have it faster. What is the fastest way? Like if we continue what you started, or if we do it the way I asked you initially, where we have a separate CloudFormation stack. Yeah, I think we probably had a little bit of misunderstanding. Um, so it didn't do what I asked. So it deployed everything to development. And I'm afraid it's just taking time that we don't have. Okay, let's have a separate cloud formation stack. So I'll do that, but also for this agent that we have here, we just do this locally, right? We don't, because at the end, we change instead of doing it from localhost, we do it from a different URL, right? So then it will be, um, yeah, it will be something different. I mean, it will not be different. It will be the same approach. Um, okay. So what I'll do is, can we run everything locally or do we already run everything locally? So what I want to do is I want to make sure that locally, when we reproduce this error, we also get an alert. And then I think maybe it will take 5 to 10 minutes more to finish it. But yeah, I want to have a proper setup that, I mean, by proper, it's a little bit more proper than it was doing. Okay, so now it will run this locally. And here we have an on-call engineer. Let me check the engineer. So we have the script that checks the alerts from Grafana. Okay. And uh, then the prompt is you're the on-call engineer for this repository, monitoring alert just fired, investigate the root cause, and if you find a real bug, fix it. Read relevant code, reproduce the reason through the failure, make the minimal correction fix, run the backend tests to confirm nothing is broken. If you fix something, commit it with Git and clean commit message. If the alert turns out to be a false positive, uh, say so plainly. Okay, then describe the alert. And this is what this is what Claude gets, right? And we just run it. Uh, we just run it. Subprocess be open. Okay. So let's start it. So it will start. And here we will run it. So right now we shouldn't see any alerts. So it will start. Um, it should be fine, right? Until this thing actually fires. And let me call it on call. So I know what's happening. So here, this is observability deploy. And this one is bug. Okay, I don't see logs. Let's stop it. Tell me how. Let's watch it. Because I want to watch it, but also if something happens, I want the agent to be able to fix it, right? So, but then also how I think to run it, that's we just need to do this like Python pull alerts. Yeah. So this is what how we run it. And this is how to run it in prod. Okay. Grafana isn't up yet. Okay. So let's see what it's doing. It's Prometheus. Do we have Grafana running? Let's see. Oh. Okay, let's see if it can. We need to wait for 1 minute. Okay, I'm patiently waiting. And I think logs are here. Okay, not very informative. Then, of course, I can say, hey, can you make the logs more informative? Or we can have even like a small web interface for this. Like nothing is stopping us except the usage, token usage limits, right? So then we can like have a proper application for our agent where we can see what the agent is doing, what is the uh, alert it's handling, things like that. Okay, but here I'll ask, can can you confirm that when we cause the bug, we can actually see an alert? So it says we can go and check it ourselves. Okay, why did we have to do this again? I don't even see the dashboard. Maybe I'm using something, looking somewhere wrong. Ah, okay. So there was no pinned dashboard. Data loss watch, components deduped. Okay, dashboard is showing, but there is no data. Can you start sending some data? So, and then I ask if the on-call engineer noticed that. Maybe we can see this in the call, in the logs. No, I don't see anything in the logs. State, what is that? There's nothing. Okay, there are currently no alerts. Okay, now we will send some traffic there. So we should be able to see it here. Oh, hopefully it all works, right? Because we didn't really test it and just kind of stitched everything together. But in reality, we also need to go through all this stuff and make sure it actually works, right? Yeah, I still don't see any data. Ah, okay. There is data. And then components deduped. How can it be 0.2? This is very strange. Um, it's 5 minutes before alerting. Can we trigger the alert faster? Because this is kind of weird, right? So it just climbs down instead of just showing it immediately. It's very strange that it's kind of going up instead of showing immediately. I still see the stairs. Yeah, maybe because it needs to be reloaded or there are no alerts. Okay. Okay, I think I don't have enough time to show this, but I think conceptually you understand the idea, right? So the agent will start when the alert is there. Um, then it will act on this. Some things might not work immediately for me right now because like we haven't really polished. Um, it needs to happen a few times, right? And then even in real cases, maybe it, at least locally, it helps to try doing this to make sure your flow works, right? And then um, yeah, you finish it. Okay. I'll continue. I'll finish this. Then everything that we did here will appear in this article, right? So in this article, we'll actually have the final version of that, right? With all the prompts I used. I'll try to keep it very generic, so then it works for pretty much any application. Doesn't matter which um, stack you use for that. Uh, but yeah, that's it for this. Hopefully it will work. I'll include a screenshot to the article so then you can see how it actually works. So don't forget to subscribe to this. Also, please give it a like. So then, like if you give the like to this article, and then let me send the link one more time. Like if you like the article, then it helps also to promote this article and to promote this course to people who use Substack. So then people will see this, other people will see this, and they will come, they will find out about the course. So if you want to help to spread the word about the course, you can just go and like the article. And with that, I just check again. With that, we finish. So just let me check one more time if anything appeared. I don't know what it is, file to fetch alerts. I think it's like the logs, right? Um, let's see. But yeah, I actually have to go now. So just let me give it like 10 seconds to see. I think it's running, no? Would be nice to have more visibility into what's happening. Um, but yeah, like I think you got the idea, right? So and now you just try to use this and see what is missing, and you ask the coding agent to implement that. Okay, thanks for sticking with me for extra 45 minutes. Apologies that I didn't manage to finish everything I planned, but I still hope you learned a lot of useful stuff. And with that, I think this is the main part of the course. So parts 2, 3, 4, where we actually implement end-to-end the application, where we first do it locally, then we deploy it, and we add the DevOps component to make it more production ready. But there will be one more session where we talk about using Cloud Code and other agents effectively. So we'll talk about skills, we will talk about commands, we will talk about sub-agent content, tool agnostic, but then it also helps to learn about like how exactly you can organize your work with different agents. We will use Cloud Code, but everything we do will also work with other agents. And yeah, see you around. So bye everyone.